Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your buddy Chewie, and this is the 411 from 406. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope you are doing wonderfully. As I'm recording this episode, the date is March the 18th, 2021, and tonight represents the 1 year anniversary of the creation of this podcast. Um, I recorded the very first episode again a year ago today. It was, a lot has changed in that year. Um, it, it I don't know. I did not go back and re-listen to that first episode prior to this. I probably should have. Um, but I can remember, so that if you recall, if you've been with us since the beginning, the first episode of the podcast was really a vlog, I guess. And in fact, I titled it episode one. Did I just start a podcast? Question mark. A vlog? Question mark. The reason I did it that way, candidly, was because I didn't have a host at that point for the podcast. I didn't have any software to record a podcast. And so I just started it by using my phone, using the camera on my phone. I was um, I was driving and I was holding my phone vertically, which if you're on YouTube ever, I don't know if you're like me, that's a huge pet peeve of mine, the vertical video. But of course that's what I did because that was the quickest and easiest way to do it. And so we have come a long way since then. At this point, the podcast is essentially just being recorded in audio only format. I'm actually recording tonight while I'm sitting outside of my son's basketball practice, a scrimmage. So I'm sitting alone in my car recording this, just using my phone. Other times when I'm recording with Pip, we will actually record via Zoom, and so there actually is a video component there, but we actually are, looking at us is kind of boring, and there's not a whole lot to look at. So we've modified it and we've changed it. So we're really just recording the audio. I actually did just begin. So in those early days of the podcast, the only way you could really get to us was on YouTube. So I would record all those videos and I would post them to YouTube, and they were really just videos. And then the idea was you're just kind of listening to the audio of the video. And then once we right about episode 32 or so was when we linked up with Podbean, because we had been asked, a lot of the feedback that we had gotten was, hey, I really want to listen to your show, but I want to listen to it while I'm driving, or I want to listen to it via my podcast app, via Apple Podcasts or Spotify or what have you. So that's the reason that we went with an audio only version. Again, couple that with the fact that there's really not a whole lot to look at when you're talking about either myself or two guys sitting there talking and having a conversation for an hour. Um, and so starting with episode 32 or so, the podcast has essentially been an audio only version. I haven't even been uploading anything to YouTube because I really didn't have technically I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a video file to upload. I actually, ironically enough, just remedied that just the other day, and I found a way that I can convert the audio files into video files, which are acceptable to upload to YouTube. So if you have been following us just on YouTube, we essentially went away from you with episode 32, which was back quite a while ago. And then, but now we have come back. So I am going back. I uploaded episode 42, which is when Pip and I talked about our all-time favorite action movies. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to get the rest of them uploaded to YouTube as well. So that's a really long way of saying we're trying to be where you want us to be, right? Whether it's on your favorite podcast app, which we're on a dozen or so, or if you want to listen to us on YouTube, we're going to be there as well. Again, there's not going to be anything to look at on YouTube, but you can put us on in the background and you can listen to it. I'm bummed that Pip is not with me this evening. He had every intention of being with me this evening on the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. He had some stuff come up in his life that made it so that he's not able to be here. But he will certainly be here very, very shortly. Again, as we announced on episode 42, he is actually going to come here to Cleveland for Wrestlemania this year, which we are really, really excited about. We haven't seen one another certainly since the pandemic started. So that's a year. I think we did get together. I actually drove down to Columbus one evening to see him. He was there on business. So we got to have a meal, dinner there together. But it's been probably 2 years since we've gotten together for a wrestling show or a weekend or what have you. So I'm very much excited for that. I think he is as well. And again, you can pretty much guarantee that we will record at least an episode or two of the podcast while he's around. This will be episode number 43 of the podcast. So we are a little bit shy of what had been my kind of unofficial personal goal of once a week. Obviously, that would have put us at 52. But I think at this point, I think we kind of have our stride down. Pip and I are getting together about once every 2 weeks or so to record. That is kind of, and I'll be honest, that is primarily my schedule. That is making that it's not more often than that. It's not to say that Pip isn't busy, but it just seems like my evenings are I have a little bit more difficulty finding time to record than he does right now. That may change as we get into the summer months and my boys are into, full swing baseball and basketball and those kind of things. But I think at this point we are recording about once every 2 weeks, certainly once a month. And then I've actually, if you're listening for any length of time, you know that I tend to get on here and kind of ramble and just kind of talk to you on my own. So I will promise you that I really never get into these kind of debate shows, right, on my own, because I really enjoy having those conversations with Pip. We have done everything in this past year from, Star Wars characters. We did action movies. We've done some stuff around music. We've talked about horror movies. I've talked about some toys. Pip and I have talked about video games. I've talked about the pandemic. I've talked about my kids. And that's kind of what this show was always intended to be. I'm not naive enough to think that there's a boatload of people out there listening to this, but that's okay. We're okay with that. I'm okay with that. It is very therapeutic for me personally to be able to get on here and talk to you all. I absolutely love getting feedback, whether it's comments or responses on Twitter, Facebook, on the site itself, on YouTube, those kind of things. We absolutely love interacting with our listeners. We love hearing from you in terms of questions, in terms of topics that we should talk about. We often, especially when we're doing list, we get a ton of feedback. Either, hey, your list was great, or hey, what about this, or hey, oh, I hadn't heard that song, but check out this song, and those kind of things, which is awesome. That's exactly what this show is all about. It's primarily about two buddies getting together, reminiscing about really the good old days. But it's getting together and having kind of these conversations around the things that we love, right? Music and movies and horror and that kind of stuff. So again, this has been the podcast itself was something that I had been considering doing for several years. In fact, I've got somewhere on my laptop, I recorded, I recorded an intro where I recorded, we'll call it episode 0, right? Um, this was way back in June of 2019. So this was even a full year almost before I actually recorded an official podcast or vlog or what have you. And I had been talking about it even years before that. And I had just really kind of never gotten off my butt and done it. And I have to say, I'm so glad that I did, that we did. It has been incredibly rewarding. It has been an educational experience as well. I have learned not only how to do some additional things from a technology standpoint and from podcasting and web stuff and publishing and those kind of things, but I've also learned a lot about my likes and my dislikes and every opportunity that I have to go back and relive some of these things from my past is really, really enjoyable for me. And based on the fact that we've got some listeners out there, it sounds like it is enjoyable for you as well, which just again brings me an immense amount of personal gratification and joy, because it is just really, really super cool. Again, I mentioned this will be episode number 43. We have got a slew of topics that we're going to be talking about. So we actually keep a running list. We've got a shared note between the two of us, and we've got on here, oh, good God, you know, I'll just rattle off some of them. So these are some of the things that you may hear us talking about in upcoming episodes. Favorite actors, best villains, best console games. We want to talk about some Star Wars. We want to talk about the sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy. Those would be, individual podcasts on their own. We want to talk about comedies. We want to have an entire conversation about the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, DC movies. We've got lists on here: Freddy Krueger victims, our favorite beers. We got a bunch of stuff around wrestling, the best heels, the best faces, the best Wrestlemania matches, those kind of things. We have got a ton of stuff, and this is just some episodes that we came up with actually during some of our conversations. We'll be chatting, and I'll kind of have this thing open, and I'll jot one down. One here, was movies that suck. Why were they made? And I've got it in parentheses, Avatar. I think Avatar might be certainly one of the most overrated movies in history, in my opinion. I thought it was boring as hell. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep, which I can't really say that with many movies. I mean, I actually fell asleep in the theater. But yet that movie made over $1 billion. And so a lot of people either liked it or just continue to go see it. I don't know why, but these are the kind of conversations that I think Matt and I are going to have, that we really, really enjoy having. Um, Again, I'm bummed that Pip is not here this evening, because I really wanted him to be here for the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. I have a feeling that the next time that we get together, we will probably do a little bit of a retrospective on the first year as well. And I really look forward to that. But until then, again, this is Chewie. I really appreciate you sticking with us. This marks the 1 year anniversary of the 411 from 406. And I can tell you that we've got a lot more coming in the future. Thank you for listening. Thanks for sticking with us for this first year, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, folks. Bye.